All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I recorded. Just been busy with a lot of stuff, but it's finally time for the Premier League season to start. It's starting today. I'm recording this on a Friday morning, but yeah, let's get into it. Obviously, it's a big season, a lot of signings happening even today. So things can change even until the transfer window closes on I think August 31st or September 1st, anyways. Um, but yeah, let's get started. I'm only doing the top 10, as you can see. Shout out to whoever made this list on Tier Maker. But pretty good setup to see, where I'm at with a bunch of these teams. Like I said, I'm only doing the top 10. And I think five is Champions League, right? So I guess that's why it's separated like that, Europa League, and then people just missing out on European places. But as for number 10, I think I'm gonna go with Brentford. I know they lost Ivan Toney, or else I think they could have even been higher. Just have a good setup. They have a good manager, Thomas Frank. I'm actually surprised he didn't, get a big job. I guess Spurs didn't really want him, but yeah, I think Brentford's gonna have a really good season. They're probably just missing a couple players just to get into those, Europa League or maybe even Conference League places. Um, but yeah, that's where I have Brentford. I'm just pulling up the table real quick from last year. So they finished ninth, and then I think it's reasonable that they lost their starting striker and they lost their goalkeeper, obviously David Raya, to Arsenal. So I think it makes sense to drop them down a little bit, and I don't think they really made any big signings in terms of the forward line. Hopefully Damsgaard, gets better. He was pretty hyped coming out of I think it was the Italian league. And he's still a young Danish player. Um, and next I've actually got Tottenham. Just because obviously they're supposed to lose Harry Kane. Um, they kind of upgraded, their midfield with Madison. Not really much outside of that though. It's still gonna depend on Richarlison. Uh, Heung-min Son needs to have a comeback season. He was pretty disappointing last season. Same with Kulusevski. He was really good in that first 6 months, but didn't live up to the hype this past year, which made them finish eighth last season as well. This time I have them ninth. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 10th. Maybe them and Brentford swap a little bit, just because Brentford's been training the whole offseason, playing without a striker, and now the Spurs they were still playing Harry Kane just a couple of days ago, and he scored 4 goals. I think they beat Shakhtar like 5-1. Um, so yeah, you can see their whole attack still runs through Harry Kane, and yeah, they're gonna have a big time adjusting, even if they bring in somebody else, maybe somebody like Kolo Muani, even though I think he's actually rumored to go to Real Madrid now. Um, but yeah, I'll be interested to see who they actually target, or if they don't even target the front line, maybe they target their midfield, just because, um, that's something they need to strengthen as well with Højbjerg getting older, and they still didn't skip. I thought he actually had 2 goals against Barca, but um, in that game a couple of days ago. But still, they still need to strengthen that midfield, and they still need to add another center back, I think. Romero, I think, is a good option, but Dyer is not really that great. Longley, I think, went back. I don't think they kept him. Um, so yeah, that's where I have Spurs. Next up, I think I have Brighton. Obviously, they're supposed to lose Caicedo right now as well. So they still have a good front line with Matoma, Evan Ferguson, who's supposed to be like the next, big striker that comes out of one of these bottom teams to really break out this year. Hopefully, he has a good breakout season. Welbeck's getting a little bit older, so if they can depend on Ferguson a little bit more this season, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big money move next year to Man United, or even potentially like Arsenal or somebody like that. Um, Obviously, they're great at selling and developing players and then selling them on. I think they kind of have to commit though. Do they still want to be that type of club? Because they're good enough to finish in the European places. They finished sixth last year, so I think they're playing Europa League. So that's going to be tough for them as well to balance Premier League and Europa League. So that's why I have them eighth. Like I said, they're losing Caicedo probably to Chelsea. What a weird and crazy saga that has been, in terms of his transfer from like basically Arsenal to January to Chelsea all summer, then to Liverpool a couple days ago. Now maybe going back to Chelsea. However, it seems like Brighton's going to go to the highest bidder. Um, and we'll see where I have Chelsea and Liverpool, later on in the video. But yeah, I think that's a decent option for Brighton. They lost McAllister as well, although they have some good, young players like Buenanote and Ciso. Um, that's still a big miss, and they lost Robert Sanchez. I know Steele was their starting goalkeeper, but um, towards the back end of the season, but still, I feel like he's going to be a decent miss. And you're just losing, four out of your starting 11. Um, Stupiñán, surprisingly, he stayed. He could have gone. He could have gone, I'm sure, to a bigger club as well. Um, but yeah, like I said, they kind of need to figure it out. Do they still want to be that feeder club for big clubs, or do they want to just keep developing young players and selling them on, or actually compete for Europa League or even potentially Champions League maybe next season or the year after? With, like I said, the places going to top five. So, they were only, 5 points off fifth place last season. So it isn't crazy to say that they would finish fifth. But like I said, they lost Caicedo, they lost McAllister. They kind of need to reinvest. They're definitely going to reinvest that money. They got almost 150 million with the Caicedo and McAllister combined. So that's a good chunk of change to start rebuilding your squad. Maybe get another midfielder, maybe get a good center back that you can depend on, especially after you lost Levi Colwill back to Chelsea. He was on loan at Brighton last year and was one of the best. He's one of the best young center backs in the Premier League and a potential like England international starter. Uh, so that's it for 8 through 10. Now it goes to, I think this is Europa Conference League, maybe they'd make Europa Conference League again um, with Brighton. I wouldn't be surprised if they do well in Europa League as well, just because the way they pretty much play out of the back, and they pretty much play the same way, no matter who they're playing against. Sometimes it can hurt them. Sometimes it can, obviously really help them. And you saw them beat Arsenal in the at the end of the year last year. I think they beat Chelsea as well. They've always done well against big teams. And yeah, who else is in the Europa League? Liverpool. Um, so yeah, maybe obviously Liverpool is the favorite, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brighton does well. So sixth and seventh, I've got Aston Villa and Newcastle. Funny enough, they're actually playing this weekend in the first game, so that should be an interesting matchup to see. It's kind of a barometer to see where we're at, to see how we match up against our potential Champions League competitor or slash Europa League competitor. See who's going to have the better season, who's going to be the underdog that continues from where they were last season. Aston Villa finished seventh and Newcastle finished fourth. So, I mean, Aston Villa, obviously, they've made a lot of investments into the squad, bringing Musa Diaby, Paul Torres. Although they did lose Buendia, I saw, to a torn ACL. I feel like that's going to be a good miss or decent sized miss from their squad, just because he was playing that number 10. Maybe Coutinho plays a little bit more. I think they did just sign someone. I'm forgetting who they just signed right now. Recently a couple days ago, but it's still you just bringing him in a couple days before the season, and yeah, that's gonna be tough. But I just believe in them over Newcastle just because they have Conference League. I think they can rotate their squad a little bit in Conference League. They can potentially win that Conference League. Newcastle will have to have their starting 11, basically best 11 every week. With the Premier League and the Champions League and potentially like FA Cup in the later rounds if they want to, try to win that as well. Maybe a Carabao Cup as well. So I don't think they have the squad depth to compete at like, three different competitions. Maybe they'll have to, forget the cups this year. Maybe just focus on Premier League and Champions League. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like the signing of Harvey Barnes. I like the sign of Tonali. He was, obviously one of the best young Italian midfielders. A kind of a weird fit, but we'll see how that goes. That's definitely going to be one of the players to watch for me this season that I'm keeping a close eye on because he definitely has a talent to upgrade that midfield because that midfield was just workhorses, right? Joe Ellington, Longstaff, just guys who just run. Bruno Guimaraes, he's just workhorses, guys that love to run for the manager. Let's see how that plays out when you have that same continuity and you're not really the underdog. You're not really the underdog that much anymore. You're kind of expected to be here now. You're kind of expected to be, in the top 6 or 7 clubs. You're almost considered like a big club now with the budget that they have. Isak needs to have a big year as well. And yeah, that's yeah. So that's why I'm picking Aston Villa over Newcastle. I'm just a little bit more confident in their squad, and I think they don't really have to focus on Conference League that much if they don't want to. If they want to just try to get into the Europa League places, maybe even top five for the Champions League. As for fifth, let's see. Fifth, I think I've got Man United. Yeah, I've got Man United. So Manchester United, they signed Oyland, which unfortunately he's already injured. Who else has signed? They signed Mason Mount. I'm interested to see how he fits into their squad as well. It's kind of a weird midfield three with Mount, Casemiro, and Bruno. I'm interested to see how further up Bruno and Mason Mount play. How much they depend on Casemiro to kind of receive the ball from the defense and distribute the ball, or is Bruno or Mason Mount one of them coming back to receive the ball? So it'll be interesting how that dynamic works because Casemiro isn't really known as that, receive the ball, turn, and maybe pick a pass or somebody like that. He's more of a destroyer on the defensive side, and he was a little bit too much, getting a couple of red cards last year. Um, so yeah, maybe he needs to calm that down and just depend on his defense a little bit more. Obviously, they made a good keeper signing with Onana. Um, Although you saw him make a mistake just because he loves to play on the high line. He was pretty much standing outside his box. I forgot who they got chipped by. I think it was like I don't remember. It was some German team, I think. But yeah, she got chipped from like the halfway line. But it's kind of a little bit of an embarrassing moment for him. But it's preseason. That's where he learns. Uh, Premier League is probably a different level than Serie A. Although he did obviously play in the Champions League final. So he's playing against good competition. Obviously, he's great with his feet. So he'll help Manchester United build out of the back. Pick out passes from that goalkeeper position. So yeah, we'll see how he integrates into the team. And obviously, David De Gea I think he won the Golden Glove for the most clean sheets. Obviously their defense was really good, so he didn't have that many shots to face. But I still think he was a really good keeper in terms of just making saves. Not really from outside the box, but just close range saves. A lot of expected goals that he saved against them, saved for them. So yeah, we'll see how Manchester United switch or transition from being like a kind of a counter attacking team to more of a build out from the back team. I feel like last year they kind of just sat back a little bit, let Rashford run, let Anthony run. Who else there? Garnacho. I wouldn't be surprised if Garnacho is starting by the end of the year. And he probably takes one of Sancho's or Anthony's spots, even on that right wing. I wouldn't be surprised if Garnacho is on him starting just because he's more direct and more, just straight for a goal. He has an eye for goal and creating something kind of like a Gabriel Martinelli. He's obviously not at that level, I don't think yet. He's still really young. But yeah, Rashford got 17 goals last year. They finished third with 75 points. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit 80 points, this year. But still, I think I feel like like I said, the top, it's kind of a super league. Top 10 is really competitive. I think the bottom five is pretty bad in the Premier League, so it'll be interesting. I think the top five will be closer in terms of points. And I might all be pretty high, like all in the 80s. Like all the top five might be in the 80s, or close within 10, 15 points. Yeah, between third and first last season between City and United was 14 points. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 14-point gap between maybe first and fourth or first and fifth this year, just because I think it's going to be more competitive. Brighton, Newcastle, Aston Villa, they're all, been in this league, been in this, upper half of the league for a couple of years now. They're really, trying to be competitive and trying to, take one of those big six spots, quote unquote, big six spots away from, one of those teams. So yeah, that's why I've got United fifth. I also think that Hoyland isn't a complete number nine yet. He's not really ready to lead the forward line in terms of hold up play. Building out from the back. We'll see how he is. He's definitely a runner. He definitely likes get in behind, kind of similar to Rashford. Um, and I think Rashford is better centrally too. So we'll kind of see how they set up, especially in the beginning part of the season. Although I think Hoyland's out for the beginning part of the season, and he has some like back problem or something like that. So is Martial going to play? I don't know. Who's their central striker? Remember they started the season with Rashford at striker. So yeah, that's why I've got United fifth. Uh, they also, got out a lot of 1-0 games, a lot of 2-1 games that they, counterattacked. That City game comes to mind that they're still late at Old Trafford. But yeah, that's why I've got United fifth. Fourth, I've actually got Chelsea, obviously making a big jump from 12th to fourth. Um, they only had 44 points last season, so yeah, maybe they get a 30-point increase. 74 points. I feel like that would be, pretty reasonable for them. Maybe they get fifth and United get fourth. It doesn't really matter to me because if fifth is Champions League, then I think both teams. I think Chelsea would especially be happy just getting in that Champions League spot. And definitely looks like they're upgrading their midfield. Like I said, with Caicedo, Enzo can play his more natural position as a more like box to box number 8 as we saw in the World Cup. He was even scoring goals in the World Cup. I mean, he wasn't even close to that for Chelsea. He was just kind of playing as like a deep lying playmaker for Chelsea the last 6 months of the last season. But yeah, I like Nico Jackson a lot. He kind of reminds me of a Ollie Watkins type, and he's still super young. So if that's his baseline, I feel like he can get a lot better. And well, so they got Mudrick. He's still, a wait and see guy, but he kind of showed flashes in the preseason. Chelsea had a really good preseason, although I think they were just playing, Aston Villa, Brentford, Brighton. Um, but that's still, good, to see where they're at in terms of their level. So if they're better than Aston Villa, Newcastle, Brighton, Brentford, that's already putting them in a good position to at least make like top six run in the standings in the table. But yeah, who else have they got? They brought back Levi Colwill. Like I said, he was one of the best young center backs last season. Thiago Silva's still there. Well, they got Reece James. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. Even their backup right back, he looked really good in preseason as well. I think the Malo Gusto from Lyon. So they've got that athletic right back, whether it's James or Gusto. So yeah, we'll see how they do throughout the season. Pochettino has obviously come in, so we got to see if they actually can be consistent this year. They had some good games last year, but then went on a crazy bad run at the second half of the season. They were actually decent, I think, for the first half of the season, and then really had a bad run at the second half of the year. Didn't win like a record number of games, like a record losing streak for their team. So yeah, I've got Chelsea fourth, but them and United are pretty even for me. I think it's just going to depend on who's going to score more goals. I think both of their defenses will be pretty good, especially if Chelsea get Caicedo, if he's protecting that back four, him and Enzo protecting that back four, and then although it does suck that Nkunku he's injured for the first couple months, I thought he would have really been really good in that number 10 role, getting goals and assists from that role. They haven't really had like a really good playmaker like that. Maybe since Mason Mount's like first year, second year. They really had a drop off in that position last year. They kind of played Havertz in that number 10 or number 9 role last year, like false nine. But I feel like they definitely have a more consistent lineup that they want to play. And Sterling as well. He definitely needs to have a bounce back year. I thought he started off last year pretty good, but then like I said, the second half of the year, their whole team kind of just dropped off. I don't know if it was just too many players, too many, voices in the locker room, not enough, not enough leadership in the locker room, not enough, voice or motivation from their manager. They're kind of that team that always switches managers. But we'll see how Pochettino does. I think they're going to be pretty good. And they have no Champions League. They got no Europa League. They got just Premier League and the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. That's all they got to worry about. So, it's just up to Pochettino to get their best 11 playing and keep them consistent. obviously they're gonna have to integrate Nkunku when he comes back, but they still need to have some good, be in the top six when he comes back so that they can really make a run in the second half of the season, maybe after January. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, try to improve their squad in January again. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. Next, I think I've got, let's see, I think I've got Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool, they made some good signings. Obviously, they still need to get that one last midfielder signing if they lose out on Caicedo. Um, I don't see how this team doesn't score like a bunch of goals. They got so many guys. They got Jota, they got Diaz, they got Salah, they got Nunez. What else have they got? Gakpo. So many like five forwards I just named. Um, that can score a bunch of goals. I'm trying to see. I'm interested to see who their actual starting front three is, just because I'm sure that'll rotate between that and Europa League. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's Klopp is just gonna go based on form or um he's or is he gonna have like a set front three that he's just gonna keep playing and then let the other guys come in as subs like Jota and Gakpo. Because I feel like their best front three is probably Diaz, Nunez, and Salah. Mohamed Salah. So, but obviously that's going to change, I think, based on form. And, I feel like Jota and Nunez, maybe Diaz more. They always get injured they always have a couple of injuries a season. But, they're all electric forwards who should score a bunch of goals. Like I said, their main concern is going to be their midfield and their kind of their backbone. Van Dijk needs to be better than he was last year after having, some insane couple of years that, was helping them lead to title charges and Champions League final finishes, three Champions League finals, right? So obviously that they played a ton of games the year before last season. I think they played like almost every single game that was, possible to them because they made the final in all of their competitions. So yeah, I think they're gonna have more of a bounce back year this year. Salah should definitely continue to be one of the best players in the league. I think he had like 19, like 15 assists or something like that last season. I wouldn't be surprised if he replicates that again this season. So yeah, that's why I have Liverpool third. And I think they do have a bounce back with Konate and Van Dijk, Trent and Robertson. I'll be interested to see because they're trying to play that inverted, left backs and right backs that Man City and Arsenal are trying to play. But it doesn't really make sense to me if you have Robertson just because he's better. He's best on running up and down the wing. Um, so yeah, maybe they need another center back or maybe another player in there. Caicedo would have been perfect because Caicedo, if he started in that midfield, he could kind of swap with Trent in game. If Trent inverted, come inside the midfield, and Caicedo could play right back, quote unquote, or go in that back line just to protect them because he definitely played a lot of right back at Brighton last season. But yeah, I think Trent's gonna have a big year, especially if he plays more midfield. Um, yeah, they still don't really have a defensive midfielder. I'm not even sure who they're starting at their first game of the season. I think maybe probably Curtis Jones or McAllister, I guess. Who is their midfield because they got to start Szoboszlai, they got to start McAllister. Yeah, the third option. Obviously, they let go of Keita, they let go of Henderson, Fabinho, um, even Oxlade-Chamberlain. They let go. So, they definitely have the money to reinvest. They should reinvest that. Whether they get Lavia, like that would be a decent option. Although he's still pretty young, and I feel like he would be better served as more of a backup option in the beginning of the league season until he really comes into his own. But yeah, I think I just see Liverpool scoring too many goals for these, especially if they really knock out the bottom half of the table with a bunch of goals. Um, I think they'll be solid. I think Anfield is always obviously a tough place to play, and yeah, they just need to keep their home records as solid as possible. You saw them conceding way too many goals last year, even at home. Even Arsenal were up 2-0 on them within like 30 minutes at Anfield. So they need to stop those type of performances, um, and just be a little bit more consistent at the back with Konate and Van Dijk and Allison. Obviously, still one of the best keepers in the league. So yeah, that's where I've got them. Number two, now the big race is between obviously it's between Arsenal and Man City for me. As of right now, it's Friday, August 11th. It's like almost noon here on the East Coast in the United States. Uh, just a couple hours before Man City and Burnley kick off. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Arsenal win the league. They came so close last season, obviously, which means that City becomes second. Um, I'm just saying right now, City haven't really made any big signings to replace the players that have left. They lost Gundogan, they lost Mahrez. That's really big on the right wing. Uh, Kind of Bernardo Silva was playing that in the Community Shield. I don't know if you guys saw that game, but he always played midfield in the Champions League, and I feel like he's always best in that option in the middle of the field. He's not really a touchline on the chalk type of guy like Grealish is on the other side. So yeah, that's why I have City second. Um, Obviously, yeah, like I said, Gundogan is a big miss. They definitely need to replace that. They should probably just play Foden in that midfield role, but then they lose a little bit of depth, um, which has always been so key to their success the past couple of seasons. Like Gundogan, he wasn't even starting like most of the games, but he would always. I feel like he'd always make an impact, whether it's off the bench or whether he started. So yeah, I think that his loss is just pretty underrated in that squad. Um, they're kind of missing that creator. I know De Bruyne came on late in the second half in that Community Shield, but they're still missing like another creator in the midfield. Maybe it is Foden, and he surprises us and he becomes, what a lot of people have been expecting him to be for a couple of years now, to be that super aggressive midfield turn. You saw him turn Thomas Partey for their first goal in the Community Shield last weekend. So maybe he can finally accept that role, not play on the wing anymore as much. Um, but then you have Bernardo Silva, like I said. So maybe you need Pep's always going to be changing. He's going to have to shake. He's going to have to scramble the formation. He's going to have to, come up with new ideas to get the squad motivated as well, just because they've come off three straight Premier League wins, three straight Premier League championships, champions, and obviously the trouble as well. So they need that motivation. Maybe Holland will be motivated to break his own record. But 1 second. Yeah, maybe Holland will be motivated to break his own record. But I still don't see how they can replicate that run that they always combine that they always come up with in the second half of the season the last couple of years, just going like 15 games unbeaten, 12 games unbeaten. Um, it's kind of hard to see them do that again. And we saw how Arsenal, how consistent they were last year until like March. They were on pace for like 90 something points for like most of the season. And they added more squad depth. They added Rice. They added Timber. They added Havertz. It's just I think versatility for Mikel Arteta to work with. Obviously, and Jesus is injured for the first couple of months, maybe a month or so, so that will hurt them, I think. But I think they can survive it. They have a pretty easier schedule in the first 2 months of the season. So if they really get off to that hot start again, like they did last season, there's no reason why I think they can be more consistent with more depth and more, quality depth. I think, last year Saliba got injured for a couple months. Rob Holding had to come in, and now I think Ben White can slide into that right center back spot. Maybe Timber can play right back. You still have Tomiyasu. He's not that great, but I still think he's a better option than Rob Holding. Obviously you got Zinchenko on the left, you got Tierney on the left. Everybody expected Tierney to leave, although I think Mikel Arteta convinced him that you can still be an integral part uh, of the squad and be really good squad option for the league. I don't think he wants to be a starter like on a mid-table team. I think he really likes this club, and I really think that he provides some different options. I think that's what Arsenal really have this season is they have different options. You can't really just keep playing the same way the whole season. Teams adjust to you. Teams defend you better. You always see City do that. You always see City adjust throughout the season. You always see them pick a formation, kind of test it out, see how it goes. They're still getting results because they still have talented players, like I think Arsenal do as well. But you always see our City kind of pick their best 11 maybe around January, February time, when the round of 16 for the Champions League is starting, when the real run in of the Premier League season, the real last 15 games of the Premier League season are coming in and there's more pressure. So then you need to pick that best 11. But I think these first, 20, 25 games, you can really just experiment and see who is actually the best 11, who is actually, playing the best at their position. Also, Arsenal has a ton of creativity and ton of you know, scenarios or situations where they can play. Havertz a false nine. You saw him do that in the Community Shield. I thought he played pretty well in terms of his hold up play. We didn't really have that option last season. I say we. I'm wearing the Arsenal. I'm a little biased. Maybe that's why I picked Arsenal first because I think they finally do it. 20 years after the Invincibles 20th year anniversary. Maybe this is their year. Obviously, they have Champions League this year as well, so it's going to be a tough balance. But I do think that Arsenal will finally get over the hump. Like I said, Rice will come in. You have Party, Rice, Odegaard, um, Havertz. You have so many squad options in that midfield that you can, like I said, Arteta can experiment, see who he thinks his best is, and who he thinks the best is for a specific defense, a specific team to play against. So yeah, Rice can even slot in. I feel like this might be a little hot take, but I think Rice will play maybe one game like at left center back if Gabriel gets injured. Let's say, I think Rice will even play one game at center back maybe. Just because I think he can. I think we saw in the Community Shield with those inverted fullbacks. Timber was inverting from the left side. Sometimes Rice stepped back, and he went into that back three with Gabriel and Saliba. Sometimes, if Rice steps forward, then Timber can, slide back into that left center back and be with the trio of Gabriel and Saliba. I don't think Zinchenko really offers that option. I don't think you want Zinchenko playing center back. You kind of always have that. You always have that same option of him inverting in and playing midfield or playing, a little bit left side, more of as a left back, as a, more of a touchline left back. So I think that Arsenal just has more capabilities this season, more options, and I think they're finally going to do it. Uh, so yeah, those are my top 10 predictions for the Premier League season. As for a couple of awards, maybe we can go through them. Top goal scorer, probably, Golden Beat, probably Erling Haaland, even if he just gets like, he got 36 goals last year, even if he gets 35, in the upper 30s, or mid 30s, I don't see anybody competing with him, especially with no Harry Kane, no, yeah, that was pretty much his main competitor last season, probably. Harry Kane got 30 as well last year. So who's going to compete with him? Maybe Salah. I could see him getting 25 plus goals. But I think first in the Golden Boot would probably be Erling Haaland. Second and third I would probably say Salah, and then probably Rashford, or I could see either Martinelli or Saka. One of them has a breakout year. I feel like coming. They're all young, so they all have another year of experience. Who was our leading scorer last season? Martinelli 15 and Odegaard had 15. Yep. So yeah, top three I would probably say is Haaland, Salah, and then maybe Martinelli or Rashford. And then Rashford, hopefully he'll, adjust to playing with Højlund later on in the season. I think he can have a big year as well. Obviously, he showed that last season as well. He was one of the best players in the league last year, but I feel like there's not much competition after that. Heung-min Son, maybe a low-key, underdog story, or not underdog, but like a comeback story in place of Harry Kane. A little bit of a Ewing theory. See if Harry Kane comes back. Sorry, not Harry Kane comes back, but Harry Kane leaving. Maybe the team, everybody steps up. Son goes off, maybe like he did a couple of years ago when I think he was tied or won the Golden Boot in the league. But yeah, that would be probably my top three scorers: Haaland, Salah, and then Rashford probably. As for player of the season, it's if I pick Arsenal to win the league, I think player of the season would have to be an Arsenal player, most likely Saka or Odegaard. I think I would lean towards Martin Odegaard just because you saw how silky he is. He's been dropping defenders. He's dropping the shoulder, creating passes, creating the assist, the pre-assist like he did for Havertz in the Community Shield. Even though Havertz didn't score that, you can see he's just a smart player. He's just a brilliant player on the field, knows how to pick passes, and gets his fair share of goals as well. Like I just said, he led Arsenal in scoring last season, or was tied with Martinelli in scoring last season. As for young player of the year, probably Erling Haaland or Odegaard as well. Maybe even Saka as well. So yeah, that's my Premier League predictions for the top 10. Fortunately, I didn't do the bottom half. As for relegation favorites, I would probably say Sheffield, Luton Town, and maybe even somebody like Everton or Wolves. I don't just think they didn't improve their squad that much to compete in the league this year. Um, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Who's your guys' top five, I guess? And now that Champions League is potentially top five, who's your guys' top five? Let me know down in the comments, and let me know what you think of my list. Can Arsenal finally win the league? We'll see 20 years after the Invincibles. Hopefully I'm praying that they finally do it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys maybe next week. Not much basketball going on right now. Just FIBA qualifiers, or just preseason, I guess FIBA friendlies, preseason, before the actual basketball World Cup starts. I feel like this channel is mostly going to be focused on basketball and soccer. So yeah, if that's what you guys like, let me know. If you want me to talk about another sport, let me know. But yeah, that's kind of the two sports I watch the most: is NBA and European soccer. If you want me to cover MLS, I've been watching a lot of Inter Miami games, and obviously Messi's been going off, creating, scoring, doing everything. They might I think they actually play tonight, Leagues Cup. Let's see if you can get a trophy maybe by next week, in that Leagues Cup. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.